As soon as I opened my eyes, I heard the heavy breathing of a woman beside me. The breathing was faint and broken. Trembling with fear, I turned my head, and by the dim light filtering through the window, I could clearly see her face. Even in the dark, she was beautiful. But the bruises on her collarbone were absolutely heartbreaking. What is going on? The crack of a belt, the shatter of a liquor bottle, the sound of a woman crying. Those wounds, I was the one who inflicted them.
I've been reborn.
Reborn into the body of a man my own age. He was a violent, abusive alcoholic, a lazy, gambling deadbeat. I, Chen Zuoshang, was once a billionaire business legend. But the moment I opened my eyes, I became the head of this broken family. A wife, beating, gambling drunkard. You're awake? Are you having trouble sleeping? Let me go pour you a cup of tea. There is no need. Just go back to sleep. I tried to keep my voice as gentle as possible, but she reacted like a startled rabbit. I watched her walk barefoot across the cold concrete floor. When she reached the door, her instinctual backward glance wasn't for me. It was directed at our daughter in the corner. That look in Xu Meng's eyes, the emotions hidden within that gaze, made a businessman like me, who was so used to ruthless scheming, feel like my heart was being crushed. In my past life, I negotiated multi-billion-dollar deals. I met with politicians from all over the world. I slept with countless women who willingly threw themselves at me. I thought I had experienced everything life had to offer, but I had never seen a woman so deeply traumatized. Her first reaction upon waking was extreme caution, terrified of waking the monster who beat her. Her second was checking to see if her daughter was sleeping safely. I sat up and rubbed my temples. The memories kept flooding back. He was addicted to gambling, and whenever he lost, he beat his wife. Shut your mouth!
You cheap bitch.
How dare you ruin my luck? The worst beating she ever took. Left Xu Meng bedridden for 3 whole days. Yet she still had to force herself up to cook for him. He spent all day fooling around, accomplishing absolutely nothing. The entire family relied on Xu Meng's fruit stand at the market. The 2,000 or 3,000 yuan she made every month was all extorted by him to blow on gambling. Once he lost it all, had come home and beat her again. He didn't even care about his own daughter. When Qian had a high fever of 39 degrees, he was sitting at the gambling table, answered the phone, and just dropped one line. "I'm playing cards. Call me when She's dead." And finally yesterday, "Bro, you lost again. It's fine. How much is Xu Meng worth anyway? Tell me, how much do you think Xu Meng is worth?" Haha, why wouldn't she be worth something? She's a real beauty after all. If you don't believe me, come over tomorrow and I'll show you. Hell, someone's even coming to the door today to check out the goods. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Xu Meng walked over with a cup of tea. I could see the marks of Qian tossing and turning in her sleep. I pulled back the curtain and took the cup of tea. Come inside. It wouldn't be good if the mosquitoes got in and bit the kid. Xu Meng quietly looked up at me, in complete disbelief, that the man who beat and cursed her at the drop of a hat could actually say such words. She got into bed and coaxed Qian to sleep. She lay down with her back to me. Her body was slightly tense. After a long while, she finally spoke in a soft voice. "You can't sleep." I gave a soft, "yeah." It was as if she had received a signal. With trembling fingers, she began unbuttoning her nightgown. "The bed is a bit small. Please be gentle." Her voice was numb, completely resigned to her fate. My mind exploded. I instantly understood. The previous owner of this body actually made his wife do this right next to their daughter, using her body to appease his explosive rage. A wave of absolute disgust and fury rushed straight to my brain, followed immediately by an even more intense, agonizing heartache. I firmly grabbed her hand as she unbuttoned her clothes.
Xu Meng.
I looked straight into her eyes. It was the first time I had called her name so seriously. "Listen to me. You never have to do this again." Her entire body trembled violently. Her eyes widened to their limits, filled with shock and confusion, and a fragile glimmer of hope she didn't dare reveal. "Go to sleep. I'm gonna give you and Qian a proper life." As the words left my mouth, the plan in my mind became crystal clear. I woke up just as the sky began to lighten, not out of habit, but from the burning urge to change everything immediately, surging in my chest. It burned so fiercely I couldn't sleep a wink. Xu Meng was lifting Qian out of bed as gently as humanly possible. Seeing me open my eyes, she jumped in panic. "I am sorry." I woke up on my own. I sat up. "Let me take Qian to school today. After that, I'll go with you to the fruit stand. Business at the stand hasn't been great lately." I knew she thought I was just going there to take her money. Fear had become her instinct. But this time, I didn't explain. I stood up and walked toward the kitchen. There were only a few eggs left in the fridge, and a bowl of cold rice. The emptiness was heartbreaking. When 2 plates of golden, fragrant egg fried rice were brought to the table, Xu Meng and Qianqian stood to the side. As if witnessing an unbelievable miracle, Qianqian looked up with her little face. "Mommy, Daddy knows how to cook." Xu Meng didn't answer. She just looked at me with a deeply complex expression. The farmer's market was loud and full of life. I stood in front of Xu Meng's fruit stand and frowned slightly. It was way too bare. There was only one type of apple, haphazardly displayed. On a torn piece of cardboard, 3.8 yuan per caddy was scribbled crookedly. The auntie selling vegetables next door hollered, "Oh my. Zuisheng actually came to help today. Did the sun rise in the west?" I didn't even bother giving her a glance. My mind was spinning rapidly. The lack of variety meant zero competitiveness. The rigid pricing left the profit margins way too thin. The foot traffic was sparse. It had absolutely no appeal. Xu Meng had to go pay the management fee. Before leaving, she gave me a deeply uneasy look. She whispered, "These apples cost 3 yuan wholesale." "I know. Go on." She kept looking back anxiously as she walked away. I bent down and picked up a few of the flimsy red plastic bags. I weighed them in my hand, then looked at the bustling crowd around me. People who were completely ignoring this little stand. A sales strategy instantly formed in my head. I grabbed a piece of cardboard from the electrical box, picked up a marker from the ground, and wrote 2 large lines. Then, without hesitation, I tore up the 3.8 yuan sign and placed the new sign in the most visible spot. The neighbor auntie looked at me with pity. 20 yuan a bag. Fill it up as much as you want. Chen Zuisheng, has the alcohol completely rotted your brain? Selling like this? You'll lose your pants. I slowly stood up and smiled at her. Auntie, you can't just calculate business by the ounce. What I need isn't to maximize the profit on a single bag of apples. It's to clear the inventory and recover the capital in the shortest time possible. To completely revive this dying stand. The new sign quickly worked its magic. A middle-aged man approached. "Boss, 20 yuan a bag. Fill it as much as I want. For real." "They aren't sour, are they?" I casually picked up an apple, swiftly sliced it open, and handed it to him. "Try it yourself. You'll know if it's sweet once you take a bite." After tasting it, he didn't say a word. He just snatched a bag and started stuffing it. He looked like he wanted to stuff it until the bag exploded. I smiled calmly. "As long as you can carry the bag away, those apples are yours." That sentence was like opening the floodgates. The crowd swarmed in. 20 yuan wasn't a lot of money, but the phrase "fill it up" instantly triggered people's most primal instincts. The smile on the neighbor auntie's face froze. Her jaw dropped. She stared at the scrambling crowd and the rapidly disappearing apples. The scale weight in her hand dropped to the ground, and she didn't even bother picking it up. After paying the fees, Xu Meng walked back full of anxiety. From a distance, she saw our stand completely engulfed by a crowd. She was so terrified, her face turned pale. She thought I had caused some kind of disaster again. She desperately pushed her way through the crowd, but the sight before her left her stunned. She saw me standing behind the stand, not cowering or acting lowly, nor losing my temper or yelling, just standing there steadily, collecting money and handing out bags, while the people around me were going crazy, fighting to buy my apples. The same apples that used to barely sell all day were now disappearing at a visible rate. When she saw the sign saying 20 yuan a bag, fill it up, her face went ashen. "Are you crazy? 20 yuan to fill it up? We're going to lose everything." "Relax, I've calculated it all. Those plastic bags can hold 2.5 kilos at most. We're definitely making a profit. Look at them. They think they're getting a massive bargain. That's why they're fighting to hand us their money." She stared blankly at the line of people. "How much have we sold?" "Almost 500. 5,700. Her eyes went wide as she looked at me. If she were looking at a stranger. The apples in the boxes were almost gone, but there was still a long line waiting behind. I asked her if she wanted to restock. The people in line immediately started shouting, "Boss, hurry up and get more stock." Xu Meng hurriedly made a phone call. Following my instructions, she ordered an entire truckload straight from the supplier. Old Lee drove the truck over. Seeing the scene, he couldn't help but click his tongue in praise. It was almost time to pick up Qianqian. More than half the truckload of apples had already been sold. Old Lee counted on his fingers, then exclaimed in shock, "Good Lord, you must have sold over 500 kilos today?" Xu Meng couldn't believe her eyes. "What's the total revenue?" "About 4,300 yuan. Compared to the future, this small amount wouldn't even be worth mentioning. But this was the first step for this family to get back on its feet." Shu Meng was dazed. Before, Shed struggled to make this much in an entire month. After cleaning up the stand, I took Shu Meng to buy groceries. Fish, meat, and pork ribs. We spent nearly 300 yuan. Shu Meng's lips parted, but she didn't say anything. I knew she was feeling the pinch of spending so much money, but today we absolutely had to celebrate. After picking up Qianqian, the little girl saw my hands full of groceries and cheered, dancing around. "Daddy, are we having a big feast?"
That's right.
Sweet and sour fish and braised pork ribs. I bent down and rubbed my cheek against her little face. "Yay. I love you the most, Daddy." She kept clinging to me, skipping around. Shu Meng watched the two of us, her eyes softening. There was a time when this home held nothing but silence and fear. Now, finally, there was a little warmth. The three of us walked home, laughing and chatting happily. Qianqian kept chattering away non-stop. A gentle smile bloomed on Shu Meng's face. This scene was everything I had yearned for since my rebirth. As we passed the convenience store at the end of the alley, Qianqian suddenly tugged at my shirt. Her eyes lit up as she pointed at a glass tank inside the store. "Daddy, look. Those bright red goldfish are so pretty." They were just ordinary goldfish, a few yuan each, but in Qianqian's eyes, they were priceless treasures. "All right, Daddy will buy them for you." Shu Meng turned her head and said, "I'll head back first to wash the vegetables."
You two, hurry home. Okay.
She carried the bags of vegetables, her footsteps light, walking toward the old apartment building a dozen meters away. I held Qianqian as she picked out her fish in front of the store. Just as I was paying, out of the corner of my eye, I suddenly saw a few figures loitering in front of our door, blocking Shu Meng's path as she held her keys to open the door. My heart dropped. "Sister-in-law, we've been waiting for you for a long time." Shu Meng was visibly startled and terrified. She took a step back, looking at them warily. "What do you want?" The blonde guy stepped closer with a sleazy smirk. "Just came to give you a little reminder, sister-in-law. Your husband, Chen Zuisheng, had a terrible run of luck at the casino last night, so he put you up as collateral to let us brothers have a little fun." Shu Meng swayed on her feet. The bags of vegetables slipped from her hands and hit the ground. Her face instantly drained of color. It was as if all the strength had been sucked out of her body. I quickly rushed over. Shu Meng had already turned around, her back to the thugs. Facing me as I approached, every trace of color had vanished from her face. Only silent tears streamed down her cheeks. She looked at me holding our daughter carrying a goldfish bowl, walking over like a good father. My lips trembled. Yes, if I wanted to say something, then I heard her voice. "Chen Zuisheng, you spent a whole night and day putting on this act, just to make me jump into this fire pit myself." She suddenly bent down, picked up the groceries she had just dropped, and hurled them at me with all her might. "I hate you. I want a divorce." The bags slammed into me, scattering food all over the ground. Qianqian was terrified. She burst into loud, wailing tears. "Mommy, don't hit Daddy." Before I could even open my mouth, Shu Meng spun around and lunged for the door, but she couldn't get inside. The guy with the triangle eyes grabbed her wrist. "Don't be in such a rush to leave, sister-in-law." He reached out to grope her, flashing a filthy grin. "Your husband signed it clearly in black and white. You're coming with us today." I saw Shu Meng freeze in place. The terror on her face was even deeper than before. In that moment, something inside me snapped. "Let her go." My voice rang out, ice cold. It was an aura forged from 10 years of surviving the cutthroat business world. These street thugs had never seen such a presence. A slap landed squarely on Triangle Eye's face. He stumbled back a few steps. The corner of his mouth split open. His gang was stunned. Everyone was completely shocked. "Beat him to death," he finally reacted, charging at me like a madman. All of them rushed me at once. I leaned to the side, dodging the attack, and delivered a brutal kick to his stomach. He let out a blood-curdling scream and flew backward, curling up on the ground, dry heaving. The other three cursed and lunged at me. My movements were strange. They were combat techniques I had learned in my past life. Every strike, every move was incredibly precise and ruthless. Less than a minute later, all four of them were crawling on the ground. Behind me, I heard Qianqian raise her little fists. She shouted, "Go, Daddy. Beat up the bad guys." Shu Meng remained completely silent. I walked up to Triangle Eyes and planted my foot on his chest. I looked down at him. "Listen closely. I've quit gambling. All previous debts are wiped clean. If you ever dare show your faces here again, I'll beat you every single time I see you. Understand?" He was still acting tough. You owe us money and refuse to pay." We're calling the cops. Call the cops, I let out a cold laugh. Illegal gambling rings. Do I need to tell you what the penalty is for massive illegal betting? I have the evidence right here on my phone. Want me to call the cops for you? Their faces instantly turned pale.
Sorry.
Brother Chen, we were wrong. We're getting out of here right now. Hold on. I called them back. I turned my head and glanced at Xu Meng. She was still trembling. Apologize to my wife. Now. The thugs looked like they wanted to die from humiliation, but they still had to bow their heads and apologize. Sorry, sister-in-law. Get lost. I kicked Triangle Eyes aside. They scrambled to their feet and ran for their lives. The world fell quiet again. I turned to look at Xu Meng. The tear stains on her face hadn't dried yet. Her body was still shaking. The way she looked at me was full of fear, suspicion, and deep-seated trauma. My heart ached as if pierced by needles. I walked up to her, looked straight into her eyes, and spoke clearly, emphasizing every single word. Xu Meng, the old Chen Zuisheng, was absolute scum. Dying 10,000 times wouldn't be enough to pay for what he did. I'm not asking for your immediate forgiveness. I just ask that you give me one more chance. I swear on my life. From this day forward, I, Chen Zuisheng, if I ever let you or Qiancan suffer even the slightest bit of grievance, may I die a horrible death. Xu Meng looked at me. Large tears kept streaming down her face. Her lips parted. Finally, with red eyes, she screamed, Chen Zuisheng, bastard. You're a complete bastard. I will never believe you again. With that, she grabbed Qian Qian and rushed into the house.
Slam.
The door was shut tight.
I won't bring up divorce anymore.
That's enough. He opened the door and walked into the kitchen. Soon, the aroma of sweet and sour fish and braised pork ribs filled the room. He brought the food to the bedroom and knocked on the door. Dinner's ready. Even if you're mad at me, don't let our child go hungry. I'll sleep in the living room. Setting the tray down, he turned and walked away. From behind the door came Qianqian's soft voice. Mommy, it smells so good. A moment later, he heard the faint clinking of bowls and chopsticks. Lying on the old sofa, he stared up at the ceiling. The road ahead was still very long, but the direction had never been clearer. Protect them. Make this family truly thrive. Late at night, the bedroom door creaked open just a crack. He closed his eyes, pretending to be fast asleep. A few seconds later, the door gently clicked shut, but this time it wasn't locked. A faint smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. Over the following days, he accompanied Xu Meng to the fruit stand every single day. 20 yuan a bag. Pick whatever you like. This had become a signature attraction at the market. They steadily sold over 500 caddies of apples every day. In less than a week, exactly 10,000 yuan had been added to Xu Meng's bank card. At night, she often found herself unable to sleep. In the days that followed, sales began to drop. I rolled out a new strategy. Let's stock up on some cherries and blueberries. She frowned. I've tried that before. They simply don't sell. This time is different. I divided the stand into two sections. The standard tier, 15 yuan a caddy. This included apples and honey peaches. The premium tier, 25 yuan a caddy. Mix and match cherries and blueberries. All the fruit was washed, sliced, and neatly boxed. Add 1 yuan for unlimited yogurt. Add another yuan and get a free caddy of apples. The stand was clean and organized, standing out sharply amidst the chaotic vegetable market. That day's revenue broke 3,000. What satisfied me even more was that more people bought the premium fruit than the standard ones. While packing up, she couldn't help but ask me why. I looked at her and smiled. Because expensive things make them feel like they're getting a better deal. For just a 10 yuan difference, they get to pick premium goods however they want. Who wouldn't be tempted? Doing business is all about grasping human psychology, she muttered. You just have a smooth way with words. Her mouth complained, but the corners of her lips couldn't hide her smile. This week, we made another 10,000 yuan. The way she looked at me slowly began to regain its light. That day, when picking up Qianqian to go home, I saw a sharply dressed man in a suit standing at the door. It was Xu Meng's older brother, Xu Hai. Xu Meng happily ran over to him. Xu Hai shot me a glance. His gaze swept over me like a razor. Xiao Chen, come buy a pack of smokes with me. I knew he had something to say. Walking to the parking lot, he pointed at a BMW. This car is worth over 200,000. What do you think? It's all right. He pulled out a bank card and slapped it into my hand. There is 200,000 in here. I'll give you the car, too. Divorce Xiao Meng tomorrow. The kid stays with her. The car and the money are yours. From now on, we're even. Hearing Xu Hai's words, I shook my head. Brother-in-law, am not the same man I used to be. A leopard can't change its spots. Shu Hei's expression instantly turned ice cold. Xiao Meng is the precious jewel of our family. Look at the kind of life she has had to live since she got with you. Drinking, gambling. Do you even deserve her? If you think it's not enough money, name your price. Anger flared up inside me. I knew he was cursing the man I used to be, but those words still stung bitterly. Give me a few more months. You're not even worth an ant. He cut me off.
You country bumpkin?
Did you really think graduating college made you a city boy? If Xiao Meng hadn't been blind back then, what the hell would you even be? Don't people like you just want to climb the social ladder to cash in? Marrying a beautiful wife makes you feel like a big shot, doesn't it? Do you deserve her? I clenched my fists, then slowly let them go. My peasant background embarrasses your family. I looked him dead in the eye. Enunciating every word, I said, but don't try to throw money at me. You don't have enough. In 3 months, I can make 1,000,000 yuan. Come talk to me then. Shu Hai froze for a moment. Then, as if hearing the biggest joke in the world, he burst out laughing. I didn't bother paying him any more attention. I turned and headed back. When I got home, Shu Meng came out to greet me. Her eyes were full of worry. Are you okay? I'm fine. Your brother was just giving me some encouragement. I smiled and lied. She didn't believe me, but she didn't press the issue. Shu Hai stayed for dinner. At the dining table, his eyes swept over the old furniture in the house, and he frowned. You're still keeping this junk. Aren't you afraid people will laugh at you? Just as I was about to speak, Shu Meng gently tugged at my shirt under the table. She said softly to her brother, Brother, Zuisheng has really changed lately. Has helped me come up with a lot of ideas. And we've even made some money. Shu Hai scoffed coldly, not bothering to reply. Right at that moment, his phone rang. He picked it up. His expression instantly changed.
What? President Liu isn't satisfied with our marketing plan.
Didn't we agree to finalize the draft today? The voice on the other end sounded extremely frantic. Sitting nearby, I could vaguely hear. President Liu looked at the plan and said it was too outdated. Stuff like enjoying life and a masterpiece for the ages. He said clients nowadays don't care for this kind of stuff anymore. He wants to discuss it with you personally in the final 3 hours. If we can't fix it, the entire planning fee for this project will be cut.
Even your job might be on the line.
Shu Hai hurriedly pulled out his laptop and began humbly negotiating with the client. The other party demanded that it highlight a premium positioning. Without appearing arrogant, it needed cultural depth, yet also had to appeal to a younger demographic. I listened to a few sentences. Glancing at his proposal, I realized his entire mindset was completely wrong. High-end real estate isn't about selling houses. It's about selling social class and resources. It's about selling the future. I didn't say anything. I turned and went back to the kitchen. By the time I brought the food out again, Shu Hai had disappeared. His laptop was still open. The proposal was paused halfway through. My brother went outside to make a call. Shu Meng was sick with worry. If this gets messed up, he might even lose his job. I heard this real estate project is their company's most important project this year. Qianqian suddenly looked up with her little face. Daddy, are you smarter than Uncle? Unless you prove it to me. I smiled and sat down. Moving the mouse, I directly selected Shu Hei's unfinished proposal. I selected all and deleted everything. Are you crazy? Shu Meng gasped. He hasn't saved it yet. Saving it is useless anyway. His whole concept is wrong. I didn't explain further. My fingers flew across the keyboard. Very quickly, I was completely immersed in it. A brand new proposal gradually took shape under my hands. The operational logic of the upper class. Resource integration mindset. Step-by-step construction of an identity verification system. When Shu Hai returned and saw me sitting at his laptop, he instantly blew his top. Who told you to touch my computer? He just wanted to help. Shu Meng hurriedly explained. What the hell does he know about real estate marketing? Shu Hai lunged forward, ready to explode in a rage, but suddenly froze. On the screen was an incredibly polished marketing proposal. But the very next second, his eyes turned red. Where is my old proposal? Deleted. He trembled all over. Do you know how many all-nighters I pulled for that? But right at that moment, his phone rang. It was time to submit the draft. He stared at the nearly finished new proposal on the screen, his expression shifting rapidly. Finally, he gritted his teeth and hit send. Then he glared at me with burning eyes. If this gets screwed up, I won't let you off the hook. The results weren't out yet. I picked up my glass of water and took a sip. Less than 10 minutes later, his phone rang again. He answered and listened for a few moments. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. After hanging up, he looked at me with a deeply complex expression. Then he grabbed his laptop and walked straight out.
I'm heading to the company.
I'll settle the score with you when I get back. I smiled faintly. I knew exactly what he was about to face. The contents of that proposal were absolutely not something someone of his caliber could clearly explain. Sure enough, not long after, my phone rang. It was Shu Hai on the other end. His voice sounded a bit flustered. Chen Zuisheng, can you come to my company right now? President Liu insists on meeting the planner in person. Send me the address. I'll drive over and pick you up. On the way to the company, Shu Hai drove very fast. The atmosphere in the car was incredibly heavy. He didn't say a word, and I didn't bother speaking either. While waiting at a red light, his face was tense. Finally, he blurted out, "Later, when we meet President Liu, keep your mouth shut. Let me handle it." I shot him a glance. Keep making things up, and get exposed right on the spot. His face flushed bright red. He fell silent, then walked into the reception room. An elegantly dressed middle-aged man stood up. Pointing at the projector screen, he asked me, "Mr. Chen, this concept of an upper-class convergence playground is excellent. How exactly do we implement it?" I walked up to the projector. I told the assistant to flip to the operations page. I designed an identity verification system. First, property owners must pass a review by the management board. It's not just about having money. They must possess valuable resources for the elite community, such as a strong network, specialized skills, or social influence. Second, I propose reserving 30% of the housing stock as flexible living spaces to invite top-tier entrepreneurs, artists, and scholars for short-term residencies, allowing the community to generate its own prestige. Third, host monthly high society dialogues. As long as we invite outstanding figures in the industry, non-residents won't be able to buy a ticket in no matter how much money they have. President Lee's eyes lit up, transforming a house from a mere commodity into a membership ticket. He asked about a few more details. I answered fluently. The veteran planners beside him nodded continuously in approval. President Liu stood up, looking at me with a burning gaze. "The marketing director position is currently vacant. Annual salary, 500,000 yuan.
Will you take the job?
500,000 yuan. I felt Shu Hai's breath hitch for a second. I smiled and shook my head. I still have to help my wife run her fruit stand. I'm not considering getting a job right now. President Liu was stunned for a moment. I continued, but there's something I'm not sure if I should say.
Please do.
Your pricing for this real estate project is far too conservative. The atmosphere instantly froze. Shu Hai hurriedly tugged at my sleeve. President Liu narrowed his eyes. "Mr. Chen,
What do you mean?
given the current market situation, our pricing is already the highest in this area, if I'm not mistaken. The opening price you've prepared is 85,000 yuan per square meter, right?" I paused for a moment. "I suggest raising it to over 120,000 yuan. Gasps of shock echoed throughout the meeting room. Some people had already started shaking their heads. President Liu said, Mr. Chen, perhaps you don't fully understand the market. In this area, anything over 90,000 yuan is already a tough sell. Here is the situation." I walked over to the window and pointed at the empty plot of land to the east of the project. First, the minutes from last week's Development and Reform Commission meeting mentioned strengthening the railway transit network in the Eastern New District. Second, the new mayor, in his speech at the Construction Systems Symposium last month, emphasized shortening the commute time between the new development zone and the inner city. Third, the Planning Bureau's website recently updated the land use map for the eastern sector. The plot of land east of your project has been reclassified from reserve land to transportation infrastructure land. The meeting room suddenly fell dead silent. Everyone's eyes were fixed on me. String these pieces of information together, add in the new mayor's resume. When he was in office in the Southern New District, the first major thing he did was push for the construction of a subway extension line. I predict that within the next 6 months, the subway extension plan will be announced. There is a high probability the station will be located right east of your project. President Liu suddenly shot up from his seat. "How certain are you?" 70%, I said calmly, but even if it were only 50%, it's worth the gamble. Because once the news is announced, housing prices will instantly spike by over 30%. If you raise the price to 120,000 now, it might look expensive, but compared to its actual value 6 months from now, it's still a bargain. I looked toward President Liu. More importantly, once the subway news is announced, surrounding mass market housing projects will flood the market. If you stick to the 85,000 yuan price tag, You'll completely lose the positioning advantage of an upper-class convergence playground. The rich want to be neighbors with office workers squeezing onto the subway. The reception room was completely silent. President Liu stared at me for a full minute. Then he made a phone call.